ready.
Hello everybody, what's going on? My name is Sir Medieval and welcome back to the Dread Knight Chronicles. So today is going to be an Angry Earth themed episode. As you saw the title, have you seen the Emerald King? The King in Green, as I like to call him. It's a story that I just recently started reading about in New World. It's from the Tales of Windsward, and it's about this... Excuse me! Hold on. Start my monologue and I'm already getting it ruined. So actually, I am rocking the full-on Paladin build now, so I know people had some questions about it. I did make a video, like I said before, I did make 2 videos about the Paladin build, the Paladin guide itself, and it's still viable. I'm using the Sword and Shield and Life Staff right now. I'll show you that in a little bit, but as I said before I was rudely interrupted, I want to talk about a character known as the Emerald King. Now, as I've said beforehand, in New World, there's a lot of different civilizations, a lot of different people from different time periods that have visited this island. One of the most curious questions that I've always had is that how old are the people on the island? How old can you get to before you really die on this island? Like, how long can you live? You know, things of that nature I've always been super curious about, and it's been answered in multiple different lore pages. Some that have actually been answered after the launch happened, like after the closed beta came out and we got some new lore pages in the files that we were able to dig up. A lot of those questions started to get answered officially. So one of the biggest questions that I always had was like, can you live for, you know, hundreds and hundreds of years? And it is actually true that you can. You absolutely can. There was a character that made me wonder this the most when I initially had read about her story, known as Hazel. You see, the character known as Hazel is one that was able to see the island, and not just the island, but the Shattered Mountain, known as the, you know, Devil's Crown, as it's called in her story, before it actually became the Shattered Mountain. And the reason I found this curious is because I wanted to know so badly what exactly was the direct cause of the, you know, the corruption being created, that mountain exploding. You know, what was the true reason behind it all? My theory back then was that I believed that something had happened with the ancients. Maybe they had experimented with something and something went very wrong, and, you know, they were the cause of the corruption being created as well as the mountain itself shattering. I do have a lot of theories about that now, and we do have even more information about that, but that's not what we want to go into today. What we want to talk about, excuse me, hold on. I'm going to keep that. That looks very cool, actually. I wish that was sellable, but I like that fire staff right there. So as I was saying, oh, I'm sorry, I can't join that. What I want to talk about today is the story of the Emerald Knight. And the reason I'm sitting in this grotto right here, which is known as the Lush Hideaway, one of the most beautiful areas that I have seen in all the game, also located in the southeast corner of Brightwood as well, is because it feels like it's an Angry Earth related story, even though it doesn't seem to be. But I'll tell you a little bit later why I think that it's a little bit related to the Angry Earth, at least in my mind. So the story comes from a time period that I pin around, you know, at least 700, 800 plus years ago. Like so New World right now is set in the 17th century. It's an alternate version of the 17th century. And we've known that there's been multiple civilizations across multiple time periods that have visited this island. We know that they've seen Vikings, Romans, you know, all kinds of different civilizations across time. Egyptians. There is Brimstone Sands, one of the upcoming zones that we do know of that has been leaked in many different ways. Does appear to be Egyptian themed, but it does have Roman influences inside it. That one appears to be, you know, indication that the Egyptians did visit the island at one point in time. We do have, of course, a lot of mentions of ancient China. Evanscale Reach is actually themed after ancient China, as well as the Empress Zhou, as even though I know it's Zhou, but I always tend to call her Empress Zhou because it feels weird to call her Empress Zhou. But she appears to be, from her backstory, from ancient China as well. So, you know, there's a lot of different civilizations, and King Arthur is also one that is mentioned in the lore. There's also really other cool details in there that we're going to go through in further episodes of the series, but King Arthur is one of the ones that I really like the most. By the way, we're traveling over to the main story quest, if I can just make sure to keep my bearings and see if we can travel in the right direction. But I think this story of the Emerald Knight takes place around the time of King Arthur, and I'll tell you why. So I recently, not too long ago, went to see the movie done by A24 called The Green Knight. And I think this is partly why I think of this, you know, I'm thinking of this time period and wondering if this is around the time this Emerald Knight stuff might have taken place. Maybe before King Arthur probably before King Arthur got there, because we're going to talk about King Arthur too, and how he actually did rule for a time on the land of Eternum, but that didn't end up going so well, so probably before that. But either way, the Emerald Knight is described as this sort of dream walker. He's not something... So in the story, the first thing that I read was a story told by Ichibo Shaw. I'm just going to call him Mr. Shaw because I'm probably pronouncing that name wrong. Mr. Shaw talks about how, you know, he's hearing these rumors and interacting with these people that seem to be acting very strange. So the first thing he notices is that, you know, he goes into town, he goes to a bar, and, you know, and he wants to get himself a drink, that kind of thing. He arrives in town, he finds a proper place to wash, you know, get himself together. He goes into this bar and he has a man stand beside him and the man says, "Enjoy your drink, stranger, but best not to be whistling, singing, or dancing." So at first, this man finds this very strange. He's like, "What's going on here? I don't know what the heck you're talking about. What are you talking about? Get away from me, buddy." And, you know, he doesn't really think anything of it. He just kind of goes about his business. Well, the next page talks about something called the Dancing Plague. He starts to get a little bit more information about this, and essentially what happens is that right now during this time period, there's some kind of sickness going around that's very contagious. And what happens is that whenever you start, let's say, you know, seeing people that are humming a tune, ooh, that's a glitch, or singing or dancing specifically, most of the time people would want to walk away from something like that because there's something going on called a dancing plague. And what happens is that you dance until you die, essentially, is what happens. Now, Mr. Shaw, he starts to investigate this. He finds that it's very difficult to trace. He starts talking around town to different people he can find. You know, some people try to warn him against going too deep into this. And one person in specific really startles him. He's a giant towering man that pins him up against the wall seemingly one night. And he asks him, "Have you seen the Emerald Knight? Have you heard his music?" Now, at this point, it seems like our, you know, narrator in this story is starting to get extremely curious. And he starts to go deeper and deeper into this, you know, this rumor, this idea of this Emerald Knight. He wants to get to the bottom of what's going on here. And we're heading over to Restless Shores right now for the level 40 questline. So he starts talking about this book. Now, he doesn't really go into a lot of detail about what exactly this book is, per se. That's really weird. I don't know why that's bugged like that. Holy crap, I can see through the ground. But, so he really wants to get his hands on this book to learn more. And you know, there's actually some backstory about the roads in this game, specifically the ones that are found up north that we'll be going into at a later time. They're actually made with a specific material, according to the lore, that is also found in the structures of the obelisk, if I remember correctly. They're referred, one of them in particular that I remember is referred to as the Ancient Road, and it's one of the ones that our dear friend Isabella had traveled on very long ago. But essentially, with this Emerald King situation, he starts to read more into this book, and he has this dream eventually. And in this dream, he can see this green figure. The title of the lore page itself is called "What Dreams May Come." And what happens is that he sees a figure in green. He could not bear to look directly at it. With the knife, he says he modified his vocal organ to better sing. So I assume he's either singing or he has an actual organ. I'm assuming it's a singing. And he awakes to find the above portion, so like the above portion where he says that he saw a figure in green and he can't look directly at it. He awoke to find that written in his journal, but he had no recollection of doing that. The very next thing that happens, he gets a page, or he writes a page called "Infected with Humming," which I'm sure you can deduce where we're going from here. He basically starts to get infected. He starts humming a tune, you know, simple as can be. Very next page after that, a new dancer takes the stage. Mr. Shaw, his story is no more, essentially. There is a journal, or a couple journal entries known as fragments, and that kind of just, you know, it more seems like a song, more like a thing that people would be potentially singing if they're infected already by the green by the Emerald King, but nothing that really gives us a whole lot of details about what exactly he is. However, let me go ahead and jump forward a little bit here. There is a couple journal pages that are from the King and Emerald entries, and they talk a little bit more about what might be going on. So the first one, called Hearken and Beware, it talks about how the ancients came and went, so this seems like it takes place after the ancients, and then it starts to tie into other civilizations visiting Eternum, and those are the ones that seem to be getting targeted by this Emerald King. Also, sorry that I keep calling it Green Knight and, you know, Emerald Knight in some parts. I'm just getting it mixed up, but we know it's Emerald King either way. But it's very interesting to see this kind of thing because it does remind me of the Green Knight so much, and I don't know why fully. Maybe it's the unpredictable and kind of poetic nature of him. Kind of like how in that story, how, you know, I believe it was Sir Gawain that had the trials, and during a lot of these trials, it was a test, and that test involved a lot of you know, kind of not necessarily deceiving, but more of a you know, trick of the eye. Like the tests were more than meets the eye, and maybe this story itself is more than meets the eye as well. Because if you look at this one here called The Music of the Green, this one also talks about how, you know, warmongers had come to this island, and they felt a change in their heart when the Emerald King started to target them, and they too started to feel peace. You know, they started to dance. They danced all night. They smiled and danced upon bloody feet until they danced no more. And one of the first things that I thought about was, who exactly is writing these pages? These ones specifically. Because the last one, called Silence, it calls them fools. It says that they ignored these warnings, and that the wise enjoy the quiet in this land. And we find out later on in the story that the angry earth of Eternum are actually capable of speaking with us, our characters. And later on in the story, and, well, spoiler alert, if you want to pause for a second and mute for the next 10 seconds, we will ally with them later on in the main story questline. So I'm really curious to see what exactly is going on here, like who exactly is narrating this specific portion, because I wonder if it's a civilization that has just become wise to the Emerald King and what he does and what he demands of you, which is, you know, total silence, total peace, or if it is actually the Angry Earth themselves, because it does talk about how the land was green, it was peaceful before the other men came, and it just really makes me wonder in more ways than one. But also, if this Emerald King has a physical manifestation or in where he might be, because something like this, I would imagine, would be very difficult to kill and might not ever show himself except in the most rare of circumstances. So I'm really curious to see if we might actually ever see this Emerald King in the future, or if he might have a part to play in the later storylines. But definitely let me know what you think about this story, and if it kind of rings a bell for between, you know, this whatever entity and the Angry Earth, or if in the Green Knight, if this kind of reminds you of the Green Knight as well, or if you think it's another thing, some other entity from history or mythology, folklore, that might be more closely tied to it. But that's literally the only thing I can think of right now, which is really curious. But back to the game itself, because I did want to talk about that story, but we do have some stuff to cover here. I want to make sure I don't go into the depths just yet today. We've already spent a decent chunk of time talking about the Emerald King, and I wanted to make sure I got that story out of the way because it was on my mind constantly. But a couple updates about what's been going on in the game. Firstly, yeah, with the Paladin build that I've got, I did show my skills in for Sword and Shield and Life Staff at the very beginning. But if you want to take a closer look at what I've got right now, I've got the majority of the Defender tree locked down for this Paladin build. And like I said, the Paladin video that I made, the two Paladin videos that I made will go into further detail. But this is what I've got on the Defender side. For the Life Staff, this is what I've got here. And I only exclusively use Sacred Ground, Orb of Protection, and Beacon for the Paladin build. For Orb of Protection, I strictly take just a Protector's Blessing. I do that because we don't need these other two, but also in previous phases, it was a thing where if you got these other two, then once you switched to your other weapon after you put all these spells down, the orb of protection would disappear. So it doesn't seem like that happens anymore. I think they fixed that, but either way, that's why I do it, because we don't need those other two anyway. But I'm gonna go ahead and turn in this main story quest line over here. Now they have added the rest of the 45 to 60 quest line, but as I said, we've pretty much gone through a lot of that detail of what's going to happen in those storylines already. Like I said in the Peak for New World video, like I mentioned last episode, we did already talk about a lot of what to expect from that. And geez, this thing is on me. We don't really have to, don't really have to rush into it and experience it all at once. We can kind of take our time. So the next video will probably jump into the depths for the very first time. I'm going to see if I can prepare for that and see if I can get some more crafting going. I am at about 91 armorsmithing right now. I'm trying to get up there a little bit higher, trying to get to tier 4 tools because I do have some catching up to do. But my other gathering skills are really benefiting. I also did want to show you something over here. I almost forgot. There is an area over here called Boars Home. This is an area that I did want to showcase before the game had gone into full release, but I had forgot to. But it's being utilized pretty heavily, I think, right now. So last episode, when I had briefly mentioned that there was a bear area over in Monarch's Bluff. By the way, if you want to check out the Lynx area, it's over here at Opal Grotto, just southeast of the settlement. So if you want to check that out for skinning, west of the shrine right here, you can. And yeah, there's a lot of fast respawning lynxes over there that you can do for rawhide, but there's much better areas right now that don't seem to be getting patched at the moment, so you might want to utilize them before it's too late. But there is the lodestone layer, so this one is over here, and this actually gives you regular rawhide, so there's going to be a difference between this and Boars Home. You don't want to come straight to Boar Home, and I'll tell you why. If I can just get this croc to chill, or alligator to chill, whatever. Lodestone layer is just directly southwest of Verdant Crown. It's just east of this, or northeast of the shrine over here. If you want to another one, the Hermit Shrine right here, you just go directly west of that. It's right over here. So the lodestone layer spawns a couple bears. Normally it's just one, but as more people start to show up, like if you have 20 people there, like I said before, the more people that are in the area, the faster the animal respawns. So if you have like even 10 or 6 or 7 people there, which is normally the case during this time of the day, you'll see a lot of bear skins on the floor, like a lot of carcasses to skin, and they'll be respawning like crazy. The second one right here is Boars Home. So the reason this is happening is because there's so many people in one area, and they made it a thing where the more people that are in an area, the faster these some of the spots, it doesn't do it with all of them, of course, the faster some of them will respawn. So this is one of the areas that does that. The other one is that bear area over here. I can't skin these mobs right now, but I'll probably come back later because it seems like they're not really intending to patch this. It's been a little bit already since this has been a thing. But yeah, I definitely recommend checking that out once you're past 100 skinning. That's going to be a great way. It's going to be a great way to get from 100 to 200 plus skinning, or 200 skinning, I'm sorry, really, really fast. And also you get a lot of thick hide from farming at Boars Home. And you don't get rawhide there, just thick hide. And that's the reason why you'd still want to make use of lodestone layer, because they're going to be 2 different tiers of resources. So if you're somebody who does skinning, leatherworking, things like that, you'll need to get both of those. But yeah, we can go ahead and head right down to the main story quest really quick. I just wanted to make sure that I showed you that. So definitely spread the word if you can. Check that area out. Get in on that as soon as possible, especially before they patch it, because it seems like they had intended, or beforehand they had said, like during the open beta, I believe, or during the closed beta, that if there was anything like that going on and people were, using it a lot, that they would be doing rollbacks and stuff like that. But that has yet to happen. And at this point, there's already way more people doing it than I think they probably intended, for that to happen for. So I think at this point, I'm pretty sure it's going to be fine. You can just do it. Just honestly do it. It's probably not that bad right now. Like, I don't think there's going to be a rollback or anything like that for everybody. I think you can just do it. Like, at this point, there's already so many people doing it that if it gets rolled back, then pretty much almost everybody's going to get rolled back at this point. But you don't want to miss out on this, because if you do miss out on it, it just gets patched and, you know, nothing else happens, then, you know, that's a lot of skinning experience that you just lost out on. So even if you're not planning on skinning anything, I would just do it, get it out of the way, you know, just to make sure. Plus you get a lot of materials anyway. But Restless Shores is where we're going to be turning in this quest here. It's right next to the Depths Expedition, like I said. I don't want to turn this one in, though. I just want to go ahead and... I'm sorry, I don't want to do the Depths Expedition. I just want to turn in this main story quest. This area in specific here, which is, I think, Lost related, is one that I haven't actually explored a whole lot before. Like, I think I had only just started to, you know, run past this place in, like, the end part of Alpha 3. And I don't know why, I never really passed by it. I guess I normally just go around it, which is very strange because it's, like, right on the road. But, yeah, it's very strange. I don't know why. Either that or I just never really recognized it. But I've never actually been up those stairs and explored very deep into it before. So that's something we'll definitely do one day. But here we are, Warden Scout Titus. Let's go ahead and talk to this man. Thorpe has eyes and ears around all Restless Shores. Complete that quest.
I'm damn glad you're here. Dead or worse. Thorpe's corrupted took them. What? You're going in there?
And I do need an earring.
No army? No... nothing? This is madness.
Thanks, bud.
But I can see you're not changing your mind.
So, yeah, Thorpe is something we'll talk about a little bit more in the next one. I do believe we're going to come across Jonas the Hermit, who is the guy that initially gave us our main story quest line around level 12, if you guys remember. There's going to be something that we're going to talk about when we get to him, because there's something that happens to him. And there's something you need to know about soul wardens. But we'll cross that bridge when we come to it, because we are considered soul wardens, and the Greyjacks used to be called, or the Greyjacks, I believe, are now called soul wardens. By the way, this sword right here is going to be perfect for me. I need to grind this dungeon until I get that. This life staff too. But in this ring also, holy crap. The Greyjacks, who are the people up in the north in Greycleave, just one last thing I want to tell you. These guys are now called the soul wardens, I believe. These guys are like the rangers that you see up there, and they're like the last defense between us having a swarm of corrupted barking up our door. So they're now called soul wardens, as I believe, and we're now soul wardens as well. And you can tell a soul warden because we'll have the heart gems, right? We place a portion of our soul into the heart gem, and then what happens to Jonas is potentially something that might happen to us at some point. But of course, us as the main character, that probably never actually happened. But lore-wise, after a certain point in time, it's something that might actually happen to all soul wardens. But I'm going to dig a little bit deeper into that just so I can confirm a few details before I, you know, dive into that, and we'll talk more about that in the next episode. But that's going to be all for now. We're going to leave it here. If I do run any Depths Expedition runs tonight, I will make sure that I'll record a run tomorrow, just to include in the video, so we can kind of jump around in there while talking about different aspects of the corrupted and the soul wardens, because there's going to be a couple interesting things I want to dive into, and we'll see what comes next for the main storyline. Catch you folks later. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time.